if your coping mechanism is not God, it's an idol.
Striving for is life, faith, balance, which is essentially having my faith in Christ be what holds me together.
God should not at any point be a coping mechanism but a source.
Guess who's back? Look at us being consistent.
It's giving prioritization.
Have we ever even done 2 weeks in a row? I think this is the first time. We have 2 weeks in a row. Nah, we've never. This is the first time. And big ups to that. It shows also there's progress, okay? There's growth. 2 weeks in a row.
There's intentionality.
I'm so proud of us. Okay, so before anything, right? As you guys can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we are like, we look gorgeous always. And today, we are proudly dressed in Dolthema. We're wearing these gorgeous shawl from Dolthema's winter collection. And as you can see, also like we're dripping. We have on this beautiful jewelry from Be Bold Jewelry. All of the jewelry and our gorgeous shawls are available on Dolthema's website and in store. So y'all should check it out so you can look just as good as we do. How you doing, Chumyam?
I feel like I'm always starting this show, but I'm doing good. It's been a good week. I don't have any complaints on my side.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's been a good week. What?
Do you know what she's doing? You know that habit that like almost everybody has, which is when someone asks, "Oh, how you doing?" I'm good, thanks. How you doing? Like you don't even think about it. Shab.
Yeah.
Okay, fair to me.
No, but like I get it. I get what you're saying because there's a lot of people who's like, "Oh, how are you?" No, I'm good. So I do get what you're saying.
You don't even think about it. It's just on auto. It's an automatic response. It's just like, I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah.
It's never actually a question that's answered genuinely.
I think the more you grow up, right, also why it becomes an autopilot thing is that you realize that how do I say this? How you are feeling is not always a reflection of how you are. If that makes sense. But you can't be going so deep so early. How are you doing?
Last week I said I was exhausted, so I can't say that again. I think this week has been quite uneventful. Sorry, the English is running away, but like not much has happened. There was a bit of a calm after the storm, but also obviously I think I've just gotten to a point where I'm sort of getting used to like the craziness and the stressfulness. And this week I was sort of I was mellow. Okay, like. Yeah, I was just okay. Nothing threw me off too much, even though I cried a couple of times. But
Why did you call me when you were crying?
Because I felt like you were busy working and stuff.
First of all, Tamia will always accuse me of being busy.
You are!
But she's always busy.
Girl, like right now, before we started shooting this episode, she was literally had her laptop on, typing. I'm like, yeah, let's talk. I can multitask.
But I can. But to be honest, Tamia will make it seem like I'm the busiest person on this earth. She is the busiest person on this earth.
I think okay, to be fair, like I feel like we're the busiest. Like you're the busiest person I know in Plunian.
You are the busiest person I know. But to be fair, okay, no, let me not say that.
What?
I think to be fair, the people in our life value work-life balance very highly. So it's not that they're not busy. It's just that like they just, I don't know, I guess they find a way to manage it.
Yeah, we get judged for how busy we are because like honestly like we're very busy. And I think coming in from like last week's episode, like last week like I was exhausted and so tired. And
let me tell y'all, let me expose us. Do you know how horrible we are? So we planned an entire Mother's Day marketing campaign for Dolthema and forgot that it's actual Mother's Day. So this on Sunday we literally woke up, we came to the store, we were doing all of these things, and we realized it's for our own mothers.
Didn't do nothing. I was with my mom in the morning and I forgot to say Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
I forgot to say Mother's Day. Like, guys,
and I forgot I was a mother.
We all forgot. Like it's not
like
healthy.
My goodness. But I think what I have been trying to do like this week is just remembering that like business is actually a blessing, right? Like, and I was thinking about it just yesterday that like, as much as like I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so tired, right? But this is like things that I don't even want to say answered prayers because like I could not even dare to even ask God for this. Like, this is a blessing. It's a blessing for me to have work to stress about. It's a blessing for me to actually have things to actually worry about because, like, if they weren't there, then like there was a time I remember right before I started Dolthema, like I was praying to God that Lord, if I could just sell and make 15,000 rand. That was my goal. That was my goal. I was like, Lord, 15,000 rand. And that is a lot of money, I know. But like thinking about like where we are now, like where we are now today with like how the business has flourished and how like there's just so much abundance everywhere, and as much as it's so stressful, but like God, like this is a dream, this is a blessing. And I remember when we were talking about you praying and hoping to bag the top employer, and
Yeah, with the interesting thing about that, there was a pivotal point, right? So at some point, I was speaking to someone like when I just finished my masters, right? Not that I finished, I just completed my masters a bit earlier, but that week, like, sure. I realized that like I had nothing to do. I was even thinking of like starting a forum for unemployed people because I was like, what are people doing with their lives? Like this is not healthy. From like being so busy to nothing, right? And I remember that week sometime then I made a video. It's still in our shared folder, right? And like I was crying so
I
disgracefully.
remember.
Yeah.
So funny. We share an album, right? And we
Yes.
both film such personal things. Sometimes I
Yeah.
scroll through. I'm like, let me respect your privacy. I can tell that was very
That was
personal.
no, like literally, you might not tell me you've gone out, but I'll be going to a picture and say, oh, Tamia
Yeah,
went out
without,
this week.
yeah.
No, but I also value that trust for us to
Yeah.
have that. But then, like that video, like guys, it was a long video, and I cried and I told God all of these things, like even asking for like, Lord, I would like to move out and all of that stuff. It felt like the impossible,
I
and
remember
like
we were praying about it at some point. It was in our
yeah,
prayer book. Like, yo.
yeah. And like now I'm sitting at this place, right, where I literally have people who studied what I studied, and they're like, what's the secret? And like, to be honest, like from the bottom of my heart, there is no secret besides like God is good, and that's just the truth. And so like I really hear you when you say business is a blessing. And I
Genuinely.
think that even though it's this great blessing, right, it could really be a thief of joy if you don't know how to balance it
I
as
swear.
well.
I swear. And speaking of balance, like, I don't know, you guys, like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, like, and uh, I'm also obviously like an entrepreneur. And sad thing about entrepreneurship is that, like, it's kind of hard to know when to end. Like, work doesn't end and begin. Like, you're just constantly going, 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 because your problems, they just follow you home.
Yeah.
And I just like have this thing, like I kept at some point I was asking myself, like, how do I balance? And I heard this and I believed it. Someone said that like balance is actually a myth. There is no such thing as work-life balance, especially this analogy of work-life balance. Like, it does not exist. But what does actually exist is an healthy imbalance.
They call it work-life integration.
Okay, girl, tell us about
Oh
that.
my gosh, no, continue what you're saying.
You're so good at Elizabeth. Those are the big words. She's the smart in between us. Tell us what is work life integrated.
So, and there's this career theory, right, that says that we essentially have multiple shelves. So imagine that there are six circles here, right? And each one of these circles is the different responsibilities that you need to achieve, right? But understanding that work plays a bigger portion of that, because essentially it steals about 15 to 30% of your life in total, right? And that's, you still need to consider all the times you're sleeping, all the times you're traveling, so it plays a significant role. So with work-life integration, it's understanding that work is a big part of it, but also understanding how to essentially integrate the things that you value into this picture that you're trying to build.
I think I get it. Just like how my baby's like right behind us.
Yes, literally. Just like how my work laptop is also behind us.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I really do get that. I think also another thing that like I also consider that to give myself grace is that like I think during different season of my life, different things will take priorities, and that may look like some days I'll leave work early because I really need to get home to my family, and some days like with us like I no longer take calls after a certain time because there's some periods in life where I feel like okay I just need to prioritize like home, and that takes a hit in work a little bit, but then a lot of the times like I'm away from home because of work, right? A lot of the times I also need to sort of sacrifice time chilling with family and actually get work done. So in different seasons, different periods, certain things will take priority. You just have to trust the fact that when the time comes, you'll make the right decision and prioritize certain things, but then in other periods you'll be able to prioritize other things. Like there'll always be a bit of an imbalance. It just depends on how everything is going. And I think more than anything, right, why I have been feeling so overwhelmed is because I haven't been balancing my faith. Like life faith balance, there's no life faith balance. Like I feel like I have been channeling, like I hate the word channeling. TikTok just ruins so many things for me. I have been so focused on just like everything that's happening in life, whether it's work or at home. Like I'm so in the physical, and I have neglected my spirit so much that I feel empty. Like I feel blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I think that's where I really think is the reason for like the exhaustion that I'm feeling and how drained I am.
The interesting thing is obviously I can't one thing about me, when I become overwhelmed, right, I essentially go inside myself, right? And so I kind of like look at this work life spiritual thing in the sense that I feel like the ideal ratio is that spiritual should take precedence over work all the time. Think of David. For example, David was in the wilderness, like his life was literally crumbling down. Like imagine your son
He
is
was a
gunning
very
for
busy
you.
man.
Yeah, he was busy trying to survive.
Yeah.
But his spiritual life took precedence. And that's what ideally it should be. Not even ideally, that's what we should aspire for. And I think that's why even with David, like I was telling you the other day, when David speaks about human beings, like he makes us seem like such horrible people, like oh my gosh. Like, and I was thinking to myself, how is this a man after God's heart if he sees men like this, right? But then I came to the reality that he saw men for what they were, but he wasn't focused on that. He was focused on his relationship with God, and that's why he even says that God is his refuge, his strength, his pillar, all these words, meaning that his spiritual life took precedence over his physical life. But the reason why we as men are horrible is because we let life take precedence over our spiritual life. So we become a physical man instead of a man of the spirit, and we are shocked when we lack the fruits of the spirit, and I think that's why even the church, I heard somebody say, why doesn't God do the miracles he used to do in the past, right? Why are we not the zealous church which shook the Holy Spirit to shake the foundations of the building, because these people were just so hungry and like so thirsty for it, right? But it's also important to understand that the complexity of this world has really become complex. So like, for me personally, I get where you're coming from.
And as you're speaking, I'm even thinking about how Jesus, right? Like, just when he was getting really popular and everyone was coming to get their blessing,
It was when he became the major one.
Exactly, when he was his cloud. Yeah. It wasn't even cloud, and he became famous. And everyone was coming to him. Like he would always like the Bible, even the way it describes it, that like he would go away from the crowd and like go and be alone with God. Like, and I'm even thinking, as you're speaking about David, I'm thinking about how when you read Psalms, like you can just see that like God is his safe place. Like he took himself away, even though there was so much going on, and it was but like he would go away into this place where it's just him and God, and he just fellowship.
You know, one of my favorite phrases there is when he, and from the time when I was young, I remember I was very, very young. He said, I would hide myself under the shadow of his wings. Do you know how much you know how much protection and comfort that is under the shadow of his wings? Like, let me not get too deep into it, but like I think that the moment we also shift the perception of what like our spiritual life should look like, as opposed to, you know, running this entire busy world, you know, it could really make a shift even in terms of what we see as, you know, spiritual life balance. Is that what we're calling it?
What is it? Life faith balance.
Yes, life faith balance.
I think with myself, like what you're saying, shifting of perspective. You know, for a long time I used to think like reading the word and spending time with God was just like a thing to just check off the list, right? Like just one of those things that you have to get done. But like as we're speaking about it and realizing the actual truth of what fellowship is, it fuels your cup. It's actually rest. Like
Can I ask, how do you define fellowship?
um for me, fellowship is like it's spending time with God. Fellowship is like it's prayer. It can be prayer, it can be worship, it can just be being in his presence. It's like just spending time, like how hanging out with someone that you love. That's fellowship to me, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
What's fellowship to you?
No. I'm asking because I always thought fellowship, because I've heard people say it in many contexts. So like, I've just always wondered like
What is it?
what is it? But yeah, no.
Yeah, honestly, like the thing about me is that I don't know what the rest definition means. I always capture things the way I understand them, and a lot of times I go down and I find that that's not actually what it means. But I hope I'm not too far off. But like in my own opinion, I think fellowship is it's literally just hanging out with God, just being with God. I think of it as seeing a friend, um, hanging out with a friend or someone that you love, and just communicating and just reasoning together, just being in each other's presence and just enjoying time together. So I think fellowship with God is actually not a chore. It's not something that like takes away from you. It's not something that you do, but rather it fills your cup. It's your safe place. It's your resting place. And realizing that rest is not actually just physical sleep, but like also resting in God and just allowing yourself to just like be in him and feel him. That's something that I really, 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 really need and hope and pray that I can get into the habit of doing. Yeah, and I think fellowship is like it's a way to cope with, not even a way to cope, but rather like it really it's what anchors you when everything else is falling apart and everything is overwhelming. Like I think if I can treat it as like my anchor and my coping mechanism, what holds me down, I really wouldn't be as stressed out as I am a lot of the times. Like, yeah. But how do you cope? How do you cope with the busyness?
Like in real life. So like ideally, like how I would love to cope, right? Like I would like ningang judge, but like I would like to like have like, you know, a glass of wine or like something, you know, to like cool off the steam, or like go to places with like really good music, you know, and look really cute and all of that stuff. That's how I'd ideally like to cope. But like, to be honest, like in the season where I'm at, like I actually cope via work, like genuinely. So in as much as work is stressful and all of that stuff, like during the work day it's a bit more stressful because like I have to interact with people and all of that stuff, but like when like everything is off and down, like I really really find work very soothing because I feel like it's something I can control. Another thing that I do to genuinely cope is listen to my Bible. I think that does do a lot of grounding for me in terms of like clearing my thoughts. And I speak to ChatGPT.
Oh my
I do.
goodness.
Like if anybody wants to like hack anything, like like guys, my phone and chat. Oh my gosh! Like I won't even like this week, like we had like the craziest conversations and like yeah, chat is amazing.
No, I don't want to go into this. I don't want to go into this. Okay,
Okay, how do you cope?
TikTok is showing me things. I think as we're speaking about coping, right? I'm just thinking of something, a podcast I was listening to this morning about Mel. Mel was basically talking about how there's something called decision fatigue, right? And this happens to me a lot. And essentially, like when I'm really tired, and not just like tired, I need to sleep. Like when I'm like emotionally exhausted and I'm just drained, I don't want to lie. Like the club feels like a good place to be. The club feels like a really good place to be. Like I genuinely feel like I get why people are drunkards. You know, like I feel it because like in my mind, like that's how I guess I like at the back of my mind unconsciously that feels like something soothing to me. That feels like a way that I would cope. And as I'm speaking, I'm thinking about the movie Sinners. Like everybody's been talking about Sinners, you guys,
I
but
haven't
like
watched it.
I also haven't watched it like deeply, but like from the little that I've gotten, I feel like one of like the core messages from from the movie, right, is how you see how all of these people are like coming in, they're tired, they're hurt, they just they're coming to the club like looking for something, right? And as they're dancing and as they're like lusting after each other, just like being in that environment, yes, clapping, like if you've been to the club, you know. but but essentially, like as harmless as it feels, I feel like what Sinners did a really good job of depicting is that like in the spiritual realm, like what like those moments are actually doing is just inviting like so many evil spirits, like opening doors for so much darkness to come in. Because I don't know if you guys know, like, but like when you're in the club listening to a sad song or an angry song, like it fuels it. Like you feel so justified to be angry, you feel so justified, you feel so, I can't even
You
describe it,
feel
but like
understood.
exactly.
Because I think the thing with coping with reality, right? One thing I learned this year is that to cope with reality is understanding ukuthi like it won't always plan out as how it is in your mind, right? But when you go to the club, you can be anything. You can literally be anything, and nobody's gonna say ukuthi that's not who you are. At that moment, you're not a failure. At that moment, you can buy your drink. Your drink is gonna love you and keep you warm. You know, and it just makes you feel like it's all gonna be better. But the unfortunate thing is that the next morning, right, when you have to deal with reality, right, and it just hasn't changed, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna wait for the next weekend and go to the club again, and you just
You're
keep going
stuck in the
down, down,
cycle.
down.
You're
So
stuck in
it's
the
no longer a
cycle.
coping mechanism. You're now in this cycle where you just feel like you are coping, but you're actually not coping.
Yeah. Ugh, ugh, I honestly really, really, really do feel like, and I think beyond the physical, when I was seeing like that movie of like Sinners, it just made me realize it was like it's deeper than the flesh. What's actually happening like during that, like when you're in that place. Because another thing is that like when you're now stuck in the cycle of like constantly coping, and I think it takes me back to the conversation we once had about idols. That people think when they think about idols, they think it's just like these sculptures that you worship. Nah, an idol is anything that takes the place of God. And when you actually like indulge in like a form of coping that like seems most natural and easy and nice, so often like clubbing and drinking.
So it's like
Clubbing and drinking. Because then I think about the devil when he gets right, like his things are so sweet. His things are so sweet, but like it's not physical. Like when I watched, when I actually like, I think that's what like Sinners really captured for me, that like nah, like actually like it's not just fleshy, it's not just lusty, it's not just delicious, but like it's actually really dark. And it keeps you in this hole and you just stay trapped, which is why it is so essential like to have Christ be your anchor. For when you are tired, to let God, like your secret place with God, to actually be your rest, for you to actually step away from the noise, step away from the busyness, and like spend time with fellowship with the Lord.
I think what you said was just beautifully said. Like, it's so beautifully said. I think it goes back to, you know, how Christ is our confidence, you know, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. It goes back to understanding our source, and it goes back to understanding that even though we feel like these coping mechanisms comes most natural to us, right? We shouldn't always indulge in that, but we should always, you know, like essentially look to Christ, right? And not also look at Christ as a coping mechanism, but as a source, right? Because if you do all things through Christ who strengthens you, that means he's your source, and not something that you do from time to time, you know. In the Bible, they speak about you are like a tree who's planted by the riverside, right? So trees that are planted by the river, they are forever green throughout every season, right? Victoria, the one and only Victoria,
Love her.
tidbits, you know? So if you know one of her songs, she declares that she's green in every season. She will bear fruit, you know. And that is the type of zeal, that is the type of mentality we should like face everything with, you know. I know that lately I've been you know, working through so much, you know. And I remember I think it was Thursday when like I was at the lowest, and like I'm just at a point also where I genuinely can't say what I want to say. Like the moment I want to say it, I feel blocked, you know? And I was listening to this man speak, and he was speaking about how, you know, like when the enemy sees something in you, right? The first thing he's going to do is stop you from communicating the thing that is stopping you, right? Because what happens is that in your mind, it's a prison. You are held captive in your mind, and you are not let free until other people, you know, other people know of this reality, you know. That's why earlier on I asked you, what do you say fellowship is, you know? Because when I look at the New Testament, fellowship was also, it was a group activity. If you look at what fellowship is, and there was strengthening, a lot of strengthening that came from there, you know. And so it was this thing where like as I was reflecting that night, and when I could not sleep, y'all. So meaning like he was tormenting me and I could not sleep. And one thing that I took from what that man said, I don't even know who he is. I didn't even like his video. I apologize.
Didn't even
I
subscribe.
didn't even subscribe. I apologize. But like what he emphasized is your mind, that seed that you're keeping in there, you know. And that's what most people is, it's their coping mechanism, you know. Unless you actually say it out loud, to say, actually I'm using alcohol as a coping mechanism and it's not healthy. Actually I'm using the club as a coping mechanism. Actually I'm dating all these random men as a coping mechanism, you know.
Actually I'm gossiping and it's a coping mechanism.
Like literally, then you'll never move forward from it, you know. And I've literally been saying like, God, give me the strength to say it out, because it needs strength, wisdom and courage, and that you also only get when you're in the source.
Damn, girl, you ate. You ate. And as you were speaking, like I was thinking about a podcast I was actually listening to just this morning. It was Sarah Jakes with Mel Robbins, and in there she was speaking about how it's so important to say out loud, like who you want to be, right? And I think I'm just thinking of myself now, like how I've been in this really dark space and I'm like so busy and disorientated, right? And as you're saying about like saying out loud, and this goes back to even what the word says about the words that come out of our mouths, you guys. Like it's important, yes, what you're saying, to that you have to say out loud and actually what it is that's holding you, what it is that's blocking you, what it is that you're actually idolizing, what it is you're using to cope. And once you've done that, it's also so important to say out loud who you know you are, who you know that you should be, who you know that you want to be, so that the world around you, the environment around you gives space and room to that. Like,
sorry for cutting, just to add before you continue.
Yeah.
It's important to say who God says you
Ooh.
are. Because another thing is, what we see ourselves as is not what God sees us as. You know, think about Adam and Eve in the garden. Why would Adam say, I'm naked.
Sure.
After God literally called out to him, right? That means he was seeing himself and not what God
Yeah.
had seen in him,
Yeah.
And if you look later on down the line, we had Enoch. I think Enoch was the name, right?
Mm.
Enoch walked with God, right? That means that God never banned them completely to be like, get out of my presence, because Enoch walked with God to a point whereby God took him. He's like, you're
Sure.
too precious, my darling, to be here, So it goes back to what God says you are. I hope you remember what you're saying. Yeah.
Essentially, let me correct myself. It's important that you speak out loud who God says you are, so that the environment around you can give room to that. Because when you now say, and let me just personalize this, when I now say that I am not lazy, right? I'm not lazy, I am not distracted, but I am focused. I enjoy hard work and I do it well. I am diligent. I am organized, right? And when you say that, when you speak that into existence, and you also like tell it to even the people around you so that they may begin to expect it and hopefully hold you accountable at some point, you can then actually live out. Like you and I do this, or something that I've noticed that you do is that, like, you, I don't know if it's
Young
good, I don't know if
souls.
it's good or bad, but like, but my pastor does it all the time, where even though you're not feeling well, like, you don't want to keep constantly saying out loud that, like, I'm not well, I'm not well, I'm not well. And I know sometimes it's really good to, obviously, when you are in pain, to express it, right? But I think when it's gotten to a point where, like, saying it over and over again that I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, actually makes you feel more sick. That sometimes it's so good at some point to say, I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed, even in your sickness. My pastor loves to say it, like, when he wants to say someone is not well, he'll say, he is well. He's well in Jesus' name. So when you hear him say that, you know it's okay. The person's probably not well, but, like, he's trying to speak wellness into it. And I think there's really so much power in that, like, to speak things as they should be, as God said that they were, so that even though in the physical it may not be the reality yet, but like your words make room for that. They create an expectation for that. And I believe the same way God spoke things into existence, like, he gave us that power to. He really gave us that power to. So yeah. I feel like we just went into a little sermon right at the end. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I think today today I have unlearned despising my business and realizing that it's actually a blessing. I have learned that business is actually a blessing, and I have also learned that fellowship and having quiet time with God and going away to just, like, let the Lord, like, just be my resting place and my fueling place. That is how I can cope. That before, although work-life balance may not exist, but there is work-life integration. But above, more than anything that I'm striving for is life faith balance, which is essentially having my faith in Christ be what holds me together, and where I am renewed and refueled whenever I'm tired. So, what have you learned from him, or unlearned?
I think so the topic of essentially say who God says you are, because like this it's been up and down, and, like, obviously, as a person, you always look at the negative things in you. Let me give an example. So I was speaking to Chad.
Hey, we'll unpack this conversation later, because I don't want to start with it. But I'm side eyeing you.
But yeah, I was speaking to Chad, and, like, I was telling Chad that, oh no, I got invited to the dean, to meet with the dean and all of that stuff, right? And then later on, I had made like a little mistake. It wasn't a little mistake at work. And you know when you work with like leaders and executives, like everything is so sensitive. But like I did a mistake there, and like I was telling Chad that this is what I did. Like how do I go about this? You know, and the one thing that Chad was like, in this moment, remember all the other great things that you have done, and it literally started listing the things that you've done. So in case you didn't know, Chad actually has a memory, but I won't promote Chad because Tamia is gonna judge me.
I am judging you.
Right? And so it just goes back into, you know, if you stop focusing on the good things and the bad things that are happening and just focusing on what God says you are, I think that really will change your narrative or even how you approach things. So that's what I did unlearn. What did I learn? I think the biggest thing that I learned is that if your coping mechanism is not God, it's an idol, you know, and that God should not at any point be a coping mechanism but a source. Yeah. So I think yeah.
No, I think that's everything from today's episode, you guys. I hope just like we have unlearned a few things
Yeah.
and learned a lot more, you have done the same. Thank you so much for watching, and we will
Unravel again on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.